During the cave painting era, it was an egalitarian society, which was fluid, which was dynamic, and they were animistic, which meant that they believed that everything had God in it, okay? They were all part of God. And then with agriculture, you had the mother goddess civilization because you needed fertility, right? The mother goddess is able to give you more children as well as help you grow crops. But over time, as society became larger and larger, they started to go war with each other, okay? And now the male overtakes the female. Rather than worship the mother goddess, they now worship the sky god. And before, during the mother goddess, it was assumed that the mother goddess serves us because she's kind, she's compassionate. But now the sky god, we have to serve the gods, okay? And then as society becomes more hereditary, what happens often are civil wars where the prince kills the king, okay? The son kills the father in an inversion, okay? The last process is that over time, as society becomes more populated, you need a bureaucracy. What will happen is that the bureaucrats will collude together to steal power from the king, okay? The servant rules the king, okay? So this is a major pattern of historical development that I want you guys to remember. Remember that history is a constant process of inversion, okay? Where the old order is being dethroned by the new order. Okay, so that's one idea I want you guys to remember, okay? All right, so basic framework we're working with is that before we started the mother goddess where women were in control and they focus on balance and harmony, okay? And fertility. And their understanding of the mother goddess is that she's kind and she's compassionate. Okay, so you don't really have to work that much. You just have to respect her, and she will provide you with a lot of babies and a lot of good food, okay? Now we go to the sky god. And different societies have different sky gods, but they're basically the same concept. So in Egypt, they have Ra. In Babylon, they have Marduk. In Greece, they have Zeus. In Rome, they have Jupiter, right? And the sky god demands struggle and toil, okay? To rape, exploit, control the earth, to take the mother goddess and to control her, okay? And you do that by building canals, by building farms. So it's a constant process of exploitation, okay? Not only exploiting nature, the mother goddess, but you're also exploiting each other. You go to war, you conquer other people, you enslave them, okay? It's a constant process of sacrifice and discipline, okay? So this is the major transition. All right. So the four major civilizations we talked about, as you can see from this map, they're the same latitude, right? China's over here. Again, because of the Himalayas, they're blocked from the rest of the world, okay? But these three areas, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley, you can see how close they are to each other and how they can easily access each other through the sea, right? And once they're able to access each other, they can then access other parts of the world as well. So right from the beginning, guys, it's really important, Western society was integrated through trade, through communication. And so the ideas, the people, were always in exchange with each other. Okay, so you cannot understand the development of Egypt in isolation from Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Okay, they will all influence each other. Unfortunately, because of Western prejudice, you're often taught that these things are separate from each other, okay? But they existed in dialogue with each other. All right, so the creative civilization is the Middle East. Why? Because of the Fertile Crescent, okay? So Sumer is where we consider the creative civilization. Because as I mentioned to you, it is the center of all global trade. It's where all civilizations meet. But as you can also see, it's also extremely fertile, okay? So this has historically been the wealthiest part of the world. Strategically, it's the most important part of the world, and it's still true even today, okay? That's why you have all these wars in the Middle East. That's why America is so supportive of Israel. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, what will happen is that because of trade, Uruk will become a large city. And then as the city becomes larger and larger, it will establish colonies elsewhere as well. And these will become the major city-states of Mesopotamia. And for thousands of years, they will fight each other until Sargon of Akkad unifies this region, okay? Sumer is impressive. They're known for their canals, they're known for their irrigation. And again, scholars are sort of mesmerized by how they're able to do this, but one thing that you learn in this class is that when humans come together for religious purposes, they're capable of doing amazing stuff. These are ziggurats, they're temples. Okay? And these ziggurats were the center of their civilization. Remember that all cities start off with a temple that then builds outwards, okay? And these ziggurats are important because they are literally considered the home of their gods. And these places are sacred. So only priests are allowed to go inside it. People can deliver gifts to the gods through the priests. But the people themselves are not allowed to interact with the priests. And that's how the priests are able to keep control over the cities, okay? And the priests themselves are considered servants of the gods. This is Cuneiform, okay? This is Cuneiform, which is the first writing system ever invented. What's interesting about this is how they did this. So what they did was this. They just took clay from the riverbeds, okay? And then before it hardens, you just take a reed and you write down some marks in the clay. And then what you do is this. You just put it out in the sun and then it hardens, right? And it's there forever. That's why we still have them today, because rock does not decay, okay? And that's why we know more about Sumeria than we know about other places. For most of agricultural history, we celebrate the mother goddess, okay? But then, as I mentioned, over time, as society becomes larger and larger, the men start to take control. And so they inverted the mythology of the mother goddess. Now, the sky god, who is Marduk here, kills the mother goddess to create the world. Okay? A process of inversion. So, to understand this process, we will read the most famous epic from Mesopotamia called the Enuma Elish. Enuma Elish means from up high. So it's a Bible, basically. It's like what God told us. And this is a story of the creation of the world. So again, this follows the dynastic cycle, okay? So in the beginning, the high priestess, who represents the mother goddess, she has a consort. And so they establish a hereditary elite. But this hereditary elite makes people unhappy with the system. So then one prince or one of the sons decides, you know what, I'm gonna form my own political faction. I'm gonna become a warlord. I'm gonna overthrow the queen and the king, okay? And so he slays the consort and marries the high priestess, okay? Which is following the pattern of the mythology, right? Then what happens is that after the warlord dies, his son relies on a mercenary as general. The mercenary is often a foreigner and of low birth. Mercenary slays the warlord and makes himself king, okay? Okay? Does that make sense? This is a pattern that we see over and over in history. And this explains why the myths are constructed the way they are. So let's go over the story, the Enuma Elish. In the beginning, there are two major gods, Apsu and Tiamat. Apsu means fresh water. Tiamat means salt water, okay? Fresh water, of course, is the river. Salt water is the ocean, okay? When they come together to create all possible life, including their children, the new gods. Tiamat and Apsu create these new gods, but they're children, so they're really loud. And Apsu is like, you know what? These children are really annoying. I want to kill them. Tiamat overhears this, and Tiamat tells her children who rebel and kill Apsu. But then Tiamat's like, you know what? They killed my husband. So now she's pissed, okay? So she decides she's gonna go kill her children too. She has a general, and there is this huge army, and they start to attack their children. These children are thrown aback by Tiamat. So they elect a new champion called Marduk, the thunder god, the sky god, to lead them into battle against Tiamat. And in the final battle, Marduk, who's also called BL, he kills Tiamat, okay? Now what happens afterwards is really interesting because after he kills Tiamat, the mother goddess, he takes her body, and then from her body, he builds the entire world. He builds both the sky and the planet Earth, okay? So let's read some lines. Bia rested, serving the corpse, in order to divide the lump by a clever scheme. He split her into two like a dried fish, okay? So he literally cut her like a fish. One half of her he set up and stretched out as the heavens. He built the sky from her body. He stretched the skin and appointed a watch with the instruction not to let her waters escape. He crossed over the heavens, surveyed the celestial parts, and adjusted them to match the Apsu, known as abode. So Apsu was the husband who was killed. Bia measured the shape of the Apsu and set up Ezra, a replica of Escala, and Escala, Ezra, which he had built, and the heavens he settled in the shrines Anu, Enlil, and El, okay? So what's important to understand is this. He's doing this to the mother goddess, okay? So not only is Marduk proclaiming a new order, but he's also proclaiming new values of struggle, exploitation, toil, right? Before, the mother goddess was a religion of balance and harmony. Don't destroy things. Worship the animals as they're your friends. If you kill them, make sacrifices to them. And now this new religion is, no, destroy the world and make it yours, okay? So this is a civilization that practices irrigation, right? Because irrigation really is about controlling the earth.